Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Star Citizen FM, Episode 9. My name is Dr. Hawk, and I will be your host for today. In this week's review, we have a lot to go over, both in Wingmans Hanger and out. I have a few personal announcements I would like to make. One of them right off the bat is I might have to start rendering these videos in lower quality because they are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And letting my laptop cook for 8 hours kind of prohibits me from doing anything else. This actually is also branching on a subject that I am looking into some sort of audio-only format for those that are interested. And again, anybody message me with a proper way to do so if you know how, because I'd gladly look into it. As well as I'm also considering some sort of hosting on that because, like I've said before, in the future, I want to do what Eve Radio did for Eve and do that for Star Citizen, because I think you guys deserve that. Anyways, on this week's review, Wingmans Hanger Episode 10. They have now hit double digits. Congratulations, Eric Peterson, and everybody that's taking part in Wingmans Hanger. May not seem like a lot, but 10 is a milestone unto itself. In this week in review, they sent out 2 offer letters to both a physics programmer and a gameplay programmer. I don't know if this means that the 2 physics programmers previously actually had the deathmatch that I had suggested. I was not serious about this, Eric, and you might want to look into getting a better lawyer, because that's bad. But regardless, good luck to whichever programmer didn't make it, or maybe they are being hired as the gameplay programmer. We won't know until we actually hear back from Eric regarding these 2 individuals, if they're the same that he was talking about before, or if something else. And good luck to the individual, like I said before, if they didn't make it, and may you find work elsewhere. May the odds be ever in your favor. I don't know why that's stuck in my head. They also hired 1 new designer. All we know is his name is Nathan. That's it. No last name, no nothing. They're building his rig right now, getting him set up. We will have more information, I'm assuming, later, either in the comm link or in future episodes of Wingman's Hanger. Subscribers can also look forward to another issue of Jump Point coming out with the quotations from Eric, "Aliens Beware." I am assuming that this issue coming up is going to cover the various races that we will encounter in Star Citizen, both in the campaign and probably in the persistent universe as NPCs. So Vanduul, actually I wasn't sure if they mentioned the Killer Athi, but we will have more info on our aliens of the Star Citizen universe. Also, keep an eye out for a new ship brochure that's potentially on the way. This was even a fan-submitted question, I remember before, if we'd be giving them. Wingman did address it. No specific date, but keep your eyes peeled, and we should probably be looking out for something pretty sexy. Also, lead animator Brand Brewer, I should have some video playing now. They actually went out and did some live-action motion capture with a lovely female model named Leslie. They're doing this to get all the proper animations that they need for their female character, as well as to kind of get a baseline for all the angles, movement, etc. that they need for the game. So the artists, whoever's doing the... I can't remember, my brain is dead right now. Doing the animations, etc., they'll be getting that all set up and based off a human skeleton and not so much animated. Motion capture is actually one of my favorite things, just because you can actually get a lot more. I guess a proper word would be just, I don't know, makes it more human. I can't look at hand animated animations anymore. They just look too cartoony. So the fact they're trying to get the proper human element in the game speaks volumes enough. I wouldn't call it so much motion capture, but it could be interpreted either way. Be actually interesting if they do full mocap for firing, moving, etc. But that pretty much covers the week in review. I was going to bring up something else, but I'll hold on to that later. That's more of an interesting tidbit. So I guess it's on to the forum feedback. In this week's forum feedback, we actually had a good collection of questions, quite a few. The first one came from Chapel. He asked, will we be able to enlist in the UEEN after the main campaign and in the Persistent Universe? If so, will we have full crews, real people as officers, etc., and receive assignments like a military force? Wingman clarified this, that you won't. You'll be done the campaign when you're done it. There are options to joining a militia or other private militaries. You pretty much have control where you go. They're not trying to make a Call of Duty Battlefield. You know, go here, Ramirez, shoot this, Ramirez, Ramirez, fly the fucking plane, Ramirez, do this, Ramirez, get me a fork. It's no fun having people tell you where to go in a free open sandbox. So, you'll have full control over that in Star Citizen, although the hint of there might be potential campaigns in the future so you can return to the UEEN is there. Potential, but of course Wingman did his characteristic wink and smile, so that's all we have to go on right now. Reebok asked the next question of, will we be able to find more than just minerals during mining ops? He actually asked this through a very elaborate video using Go Animate, so I would suggest you check that out. But to make a long story short, yes, you will find more than just mining. Wingman, he mentioned missiles upgrades, a lot of stuff. We don't know what yet, but from what I can imagine, it's not going to be like Eve, and sorry to pick on the game, but it's pretty much fly to asteroid, set up ship, shoot lasers, sleep. So mining should be interesting. I don't know if we'd actually find the Ford Pinto, though, that Reebok mentioned in his video. Or maybe we will. I don't know. Hermit Boy went on to ask what the UEE strategic value. When will we find out what the color codes mean? It's super important and it's super classified. That's all we got from Wingman, so there will be no further information from this other than extrapolation and interpretation. So sorry, Hermit Boy, that did not get answered today. Blue Dragon, awesome name. Dragons are awesome. Will we have in-game recording software? He asked through another interesting video that used Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone, I believe. If I remember. God, I watched too much Top Gun when I was a kid. I should know this. The Wingman clarified, maybe, but given the fact that there's already a lot of third-party programs out there, such as Fraps, Hypercam, etc., and even just off-the-shelf capture cards, and just capture cards you can buy in general, both in and there's a lot out there already, so it's unlikely we'll have in-game recording software or an app, but given that there's already so many options out there for those that do such a thing, I wouldn't be too worried. You'll still be able to make your awesome videos. I plan to do them. That's part of my show, so I will likely be using Fraps or whatever I come across. Fowl asked an interesting question that actually should be interesting once the game gets going itself. If I discover a new system, can I not report it so that I may keep the benefits to myself, clan, etc.? This is something I've wondered myself. Back in Eve days, finding wormholes, etc., you wanted to keep these secrets so you could move trades and, mine, etc. Wingman said you can do the same thing here. You don't have to report a discovered system. Granted, if you don't report it and somebody else who isn't affiliated with your clan, group, etc., and they discover it, they'll be able to name it and mark it for everyone else. So it's sort of a gamble. So you could find, super rich mineral system A, not discover it, have all fun with your piratey things and rum and everything, and then all of a sudden Johnny Two-Face comes around and names it, and next thing you know, you have the UEE and me and anybody who's a lawful good paladin person trying to come ruin your day. Or just coming to ruin your day in general. I don't know. So it's a gamble. You can either be famous or you can be greedy. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the universe itself. Razor Xerox asked a question with another creative video regarding SXW213. It's a virtual reality expo. He was wondering if the CIG crew is going to be covering that with a live broadcast. There apparently won't be a live broadcast, but they will be at the show. They'll be covering it. They'll be doing some networking, etc. So that will be covered, and we might see more of that from Wingmans Hanger 11, or maybe in the future. Alex Terminator was the next fan with the question of, are you guys only going to reveal new ships in Jump Point? Wingman went on to say that no, ships will be revealed to the community as a whole. Jump Point is more of a sort of in-depth breakdown for the subscribers, so there might be some ship reveals in the Jump Point, but in a whole, the community should be aware of any ships that are going to be shown. Lowski was asking, will Star Citizen have loss of value? He actually, by the way, congrats Lowski, I really did enjoy this video. I like market economics myself. But he went on to add, going intrinsic loss of value, used the concept of depreciation in Star Citizen. And will we have that? Because, well, it isn't liked. Having an inflated economy just because of super awesome ultra Ponzor weapon that doesn't ever depreciate. If people keep farming that, you just have inflation, and then the game sucks because you're trying to buy a loaf of bread with 100 million credits. It'll happen in history. It could happen in game. So Lowski was asking that Wingman, they can't exactly share what the economy is going to be at the moment. There isn't, there's nothing that they can share right now, but they are thinking along the same lines, as it is a concern. So this will possibly be addressed in further episodes of Wingmans Hanger, or maybe development documentaries, etc. Zyre666, very evil person. What is the Electro Hull skin? For those that don't know, this is a pre-order bonus. Fuck. One of the add-ons that you could have gotten from the Kickstarter campaign. I think you can still get it now. I don't remember. It lets you change your color on the fly. So blue ship, red ship, green ship, black ship, white ship. Sort of like adaptive camo. So not in the sense it makes you completely invisible, but it might help if you're in like a nebula that's all green, and that maybe change your ship green. I don't know. We'll have to see it in action. I have that, and I probably just sit there pushing the button over and over just to see what happens. Green, blue, red, blue, green, blue, red, blue, green, blue, red, blue, over and over. Let's see. Maybe I could cause somebody to have a seizure in mid-combat. That's a horrible thing, but at the same time, I'm gonna call it the seizure defense. No. I'll have to patent this later in the Star Citizen universe. If I actually give somebody a seizure, that's bad. Doctors should not be harming their patients. Rosifus asked, how big is the game going to be in terms of disk drive space? What was the anticipated requirements? Given the fact that it's 2 years from development, they don't know yet. Way too early. But they also have no minimum requirements, so it's also going to be as big as they want it to be. I don't know if this means people like me will not be able to play with my current rig at all, so that means I need to start making some bank. But too early to know, but maybe down the line we'll find out exactly what we can expect to be installing on our hard drives. And last but not least, we have another video from Legante, their favorite person. Wingman's words himself. Yeah, I would suggest I'll try to link the video here. Go watch it. But again, this time a new location and an interesting backdrop. But the question as a whole was, how's the achievement system going to work in game? This could be for badges, ribbons, medals, etc. Are we going to be able to display these to people, or will you have a more general profile page that people can look at for your achievements? Eric clarified on this. He said that there's a possibility you'll have like a metal box, a case in your hangar, or ship in general, so people could like check out what you've done, your accomplishments, maybe have like banners or fancy little things strung about your hangar. Oh god, I'm having confetti and everything everywhere then. Or lights, disco lights. Okay, we need it. Yeah, sidetracking, but you'll be able to have that. There will also be profile achievements as well. So if you're flying in flight, you know, somebody maybe sees you and say, "Hey, who the hell is this Dr. Hawk guy? Oh, he's just that jerk. Okay. Oh, hey, there's Zane. Oh, he's pretty cool. Oh, there's Eric. Oh, he's a development member." So it'll probably profile, who the person is, both in-game and out. He mentioned something about militia involvement and other involvement. It'll show what you've done, also with the option that you can potentially hide what you've done. So if you want to be sneaky and go into the world of espionage, that route is there. That pretty much sums up the whole of the fan-submitted questions for forum feedback, which is actually a very good chunk. Great job, community. Like Legante said before, this is your time to shine, and a lot of you guys are taking the opportunity to do this. I'm occupied with Star Citizen FM. I have an idea for a question that I might submit, but some of you guys are really good, especially with the CGI videos, and even just go animate. Keep going at it, because it's creative, it's fun to look at, and coming on the forums, feels like coming home sometimes. It's nice after a stressful day, and it's good to see the creativity that you guys have. The last there wasn't there was a lot. There was one other question I forgot to mention. Oh crap, I forget the name. But what do I think the community as a whole, what does the CIG team do other than just drink and eat? This went into a segment. They're actually using Scrum and Agile methodology for their development process now. For those that aren't aware, this is just organization, so it's kind of similar to what I do. You pick a task, you focus on it, you meet back every week. We report, this is what you've done, this is what you have problems with. I'm going to try and work on this for next week, and you repeat that process. They're also trying to, I think he said he's trying to combine the waterfall methodology too, so trying to both get big and small projects done at the same time. So there was a little bit of hinting in the development process in CIG there. Chris Skyping in too was another mention. So even though he may not be there, he's always there, in quotations, providing feedback that's needed. So looking forward more to that in the future, maybe with more Wingman's nose cam. Eric, talking to you. And if you do, you need to make more airplane sounds. P-51 Mustang with Eric. But yeah, so that was pretty much the whole of the forum feedback. Worldwide news, one of the highlights, if anyone's ever heard of Mars One, this is a private venture by a company to establish a human settlement on Mars, I believe by 2023. It's a private venture, but the aim is to be sort of financed by everyone, so I don't know if they're going to be using Kickstarter. That's a weird thing to host a space mission on, but the whole of the idea is the same. They're going to try to get enough funding. They're going to be sending probes as well as the habitation modules over, and then the crew will be departing in 2022. So if you want to sign up as an astronaut, this is your time. The only thing I will mention is if you do sign up and you do get selected, you're not coming back. We don't have the technology at this point to come back, and I think it would take 2.5 years to get, so 2 years at least, 541 days or something like that. So yeah, you either want to make sure your family really hates you, you're very lonely, or really want to explore because you're not coming back. I would do this, but then I would also not be able to report Star Citizen FM for you guys. But check that out. They are taking applications. It probably is going to be filtered down to people that are really prestigious and amazing, because astronauts usually are our best humanity can offer. That was pretty much the whole of worldwide news. Also got a few asteroids according to the weather update, so watch out for those asteroids. They're much worse than the regular ones. So that was pretty much the whole of the show. There's an interview with Robert Irving. Again, I haven't decided if I'm going to be putting full interviews into my show, just because they do take up a good chunk of time. I would highly suggest you go check out the interview with Rob Irving. Also, as mentioned before, I was going to mention, during the Wingmans Hanger, if you're watching the video right now, it should be playing. Yeah. I had talked to Legante about this before, and I'm pretty sure I said do it, and it looks like he did. Legante, they invited him down, or he just showed up, either way is awesome, to CIG, and visited the guys over at Cloud Imperium. So if you don't watch the interview with Robert Irving, at least watch the interview with Legante. We pretty much covered similar topics in my show, as well as a few additional things over with Eric. And as far as I know, he got to see some juicy things that we are not allowed to see, so I hate him forever now. I hate him. No, I don't. According to Eric, this is actually a new segment of the show called Fan of the Week. I don't know if if this is they're going to actually bring all the fans down to CIG, if they're just going to start Skype calling or chatting. I don't know. We'll see how it works out, but it's actually really cool to see fans on CIG. This just goes to show that this is something unlike anything that's ever been in the gaming industry. I've never seen a community this involved with a dev team and vice versa. So yeah, congrats to you, Legante. Awesome, Eric. That was really cool to see, especially with all his gear. That pretty much covers up Wingman's Hanger. I had a few personal announcements I plan to make. The first one being is that actually relating to Eric, if you check out the comm link, I actually noticed there was this man named Dr. Hawk that got featured on the Spotlight. According with his characteristic dry wit, he is a great spokesman for the community, etc., etc. I might have to go talk to this guy because dry wit. What is that? No, actually, much appreciated. Thank you, Eric. That's really cool. I actually noticed a lot of more subscribers popping up. I actually have to start filtering my email now. That's a new thing. Also, another one I wanted to mention out and shout out to is that alongside me was Stars Ortoria. This is hosted by Senate. He hosts a podcast both on, no, I think it's just on iTunes, so there should be a link in the description. Check him out as well. He does a great job, fantastic job of his podcast, and he already has it on iTunes format, which is something I should definitely look into. So again, shout out to Eric. Thank you very much for that. The other thing I wanted to mention, to those of you who I'm speaking to, you'll know who you are. I've had several messages from clans and guilds who have wanted me to interview and talk to you guys on my show. I have no problem with this. My only issue is the fact that there's so many of you. I don't want to interview one clan and feel like the rest is left out, vice versa. I don't want to seem like I'm favoring one over the other. You know, with my interviews, it's sort of just random. It's like, hey, you know, you want to come here, and if I'm lucky, I get a dev, which is appreciated. But with clan interviews, that's a bit bigger. So what I'm thinking I'll do is I'll make a sort of clan shout out. If you want me to feature you, I'll do maybe a quick minute segment, what you guys do. Maybe not interview directly. I haven't figured it out yet. But in the meantime, still trying to iron it out just to make sure that, you know, each clan and guild and group gets the exposure they deserve. Other than that, that's pretty much all I had for the show. I have an interview lined up here, so I'll be transitioning in a sec. And yeah, so transition time. Hello everyone, once again, I have another interview lined up with another interesting individual. Some of you may have met this individual before in the chat roll. He has done some pretty creative artwork for the community members, as well as been a great community leader himself. I'd like to introduce you all to Exile.
Hello everybody.
So Exile, thanks again for taking the time to be on the show.
That's my pleasure.
Just wondering, maybe you could, you know, quickly tell us who you are and who Exile is.
Well, I'm 28 years old. I live in Northern Ontario, and I work with the Department of National Defence in the Canadian Forces. And I love playing video games.
Alright, fair enough. So, in relation to Star Citizen, who do people know you by? Exile is one handle.
Yeah, I'm also on the forums as Luciola, and my main game handles are either Luciola, Exile, or Last Exile Luciola. So there are certain people that play with me on other games that are from chat roll as well, like in Battlefield 3, and they know me as Luciola there. So there's a couple different handles.
Is there any sort of correlation or reason for the specific names?
Yes, they're actually derived from the Last Exile anime, and Luciola is one of the characters in that anime. So I just grabbed all three of those, put them together in different sequences depending on what's been taken before on what I'm registering to. So that's kind of how that was birthed.
Fair enough. So you said, I'm actually going to sidetrack, and I remember you mentioning this before in private conversations as well as chat roll. You're a Forces member, are you not?
Yes, that's correct.
So how long have you served with Canadian Forces?
It's been about 6 years now.
6? So have you ever been deployed overseas?
Yes, I was deployed in Afghanistan with Bravo Company of 1RCR, which is the Royal Canadian Regiment, in 2010.
Well, good for you. So that lasted...
That was a 9-month rotation.
The reason I bring this up is the Star Citizen community is both diverse and, well, actually just it's amazing in general, but we have quite a few Forces members too, and the fact that I've had the opportunity to interview you yourself, I wanted to take the quick opportunity to just shout out to all those that are serving in Canada, America, Europe, wherever, that your effort is appreciated, and um, it allows us to enjoy the freedom and free time and first world things we get to enjoy, such as Star Citizen, when there's people out there that can't even enjoy that, or basic freedoms, or human rights in general. So your effort is not unnoticed and it's appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone else does as well.
So this brings another interesting question. You know, everybody doesn't mean just because you're in the forces or not that you wouldn't be playing games. I've had friends myself who've enjoyed games when they were in PPCLI. What was your interest in Star Citizen? What drew you in to the game?
Well, I've always been a sci-fi fan. I've written a lot of sci-fi, and I like the concept of space travel and exploration and the great unknown. It's literally, to quote Gene Roddenberry, the final frontier. And there's nothing more exhilarating than the concept of exploring something that's never been discovered before. And I've played all the Wing Commanders, and I enjoyed them thoroughly. So when I heard that Chris Roberts was starting up a new game with the intent of having it to be like this gigantic grand idea of a sandbox development with a great tie to the community, and of course without having the connection to large industry and going through Kickstarter, well, then I couldn't really say no to that. So the main interest, I say, would be the fact that I enjoy sci-fi and simulation, and also because it's Chris Roberts. I mean, come on.
Fair enough. Yeah, that was pretty much my main draw when I initially caught wind of Star Citizen myself. It's, oh, Chris Roberts? That's like hearing Chris Taylor's doing another RT. What? I'll buy it.
Exactly.
So, what about sub-interests within the game itself? You know, some of my other interviewees, you know, they've already defined what they'd like to be doing. Have you decided what you'd be doing in the game, or is there anything else that's pulled you in? Or a broad question, but what are some of the sub-interests, like such as career path, or you know, play style, or just, you know, in general?
Well, the first thing I intend on doing is going through the single-player campaign, just because as a role-playing side of it, I'd like to have experienced the UEE portion of it before I muster out to the sandbox portion. And once I'm in the sandbox, I hope to have the ability to have two different characters, or two different, maybe not accounts, but two different characters, because I have ties to two groups that exist in the forums already. One is the 127th Angry Angels, which is a support clan or group, if you will, a squadron that's going to try to provide repair and refuel in the sandbox version of the game. Obviously.
Yes, I believe they've actually tried to contact me. I'm still trying to consider clan and guild spotlights. I just don't want to make sure nobody feels singled out if I start doing that. Anyways,
Oh, I'm
continue.
sure if you did start it, they would all flock toward you, and you wouldn't have much worry about missing somebody. But aside from that, I also have an affiliation to Aquila, or Aquila, or however certain people would like to pronounce it.
Oh, yes.
And of course, you probably know that affiliation because of my presence in chat roll and some of the things that I do uh, with those characters, if you will.
Don't worry, we'll get to that. So, with Aquila though, some people might not know. Would you say? Well, I wouldn't say so much just your average pirates, but yeah. How would you
Yeah,
define
we're
Aquila?
definitely. Obviously, without the actual game out, we have no understanding of how we're going to do everything that we intend on doing. But so far as I know, the intent is to be your good old-fashioned pirate. Find a weak target and pillage, and then move on to the next. And when a large force comes looking after you, you run away and hide because that's what pirates do. You're not trying to be valorous. Valorous people get killed, and our intent is to survive and get as rich as we possibly can, and of course drink as much rum as we can, or at least that's Alara's idea.
Well, if I ever see you guys at Star Citizen, I'll make sure I have copious amounts of rum for bribery.
That would work out pretty well.
So, interest in Star Citizen is there. What about hopes? Like, there's still a lot we don't know, and granted the game, 2-3 years release, and I'm saying 3 because in game development things change, and oh shit, we have to fix this. What are some things that you haven't shown that you'd like to see in Star Citizen, or maybe in the back of your mind hope that, oh, I so want a battle mech in the space, even though that makes no sense, What do you want to
Yeah.
see in Star Citizen?
Well, I really like the the rigid frame structure of Chris Roberts' flight system, and I'm a fan of simulations, and I've played a lot of different games that have a kind of sliding scale as to whether or not you want to play it completely arcade style, or if you want to have to press every single button in the cockpit for the thing to fly properly. So my hopes are that the rigid system and the rigid body system and the Newtonian physics that Chris Roberts has talked about will be customizable, as he's also spoken about, as much as I hope it will be. Like, there are ideas in my mind that I'd like to be able to pull off with the Hornet or with one of the other ships, and if it's not realistic enough, I know I won't be able to do that.
Split
So,
S high-speed yo-yo aileron roll.
exactly.
What? For anyone listening, what I just mentioned is physically impossible that would tear apart any normal aircraft if you were to do all 3.
In an
Continue.
environment. Yeah, in atmosphere, you definitely have some troubles. But in space, there's no real problem with doing things like that. So if you're being trailed by someone and you want to turn around to bear all your weapons on them, you don't have to take a long, detoured Immelman turn or something like that. You just have to choose one of your forward thrusters and spin yourself 180 degrees, and your main momentum is still going in the original direction of travel, but you have all your guns pointing backwards. So that's what I would like to be able to do.
To extrapolate on this is actually something I've been interested in myself. Modern flight simulators and games, as fun as they are, you might, 9 times out of 10 you end up with the yo-yo of death, or, the loop of death. 2 players who are good, and this isn't a bad thing, the fact they're doing it, but they each match each other's skill, and they're constantly outmaneuvering each other, and you just get this endless loop of, are they going to kill each other yet? As we're in
Exactly.
space, like you say, you could just spin around. I did see this replicated in one free-to-play game that some people might be familiar with called Black Prophecy, but the management of the company led to its demise fairly quickly. So if they can replicate it, because the only issue I remember with this kind of physics is that you'll get turrets. People who just, well, why the hell do I have to fly when I can just point in any which direction? Although there could be serious consequences for that, being the fact that you're now a target that's not moving.
Yeah, and the idea is if you're not moving, there's a good chance that you'll have multiple assailants at you at once. So the idea would be to try and move as quickly as you can in one direction while turning around to engage either missiles or the enemy themselves. And while your main engines are pointed the opposite direction, you can't exactly maneuver very well either. Like a good version of that is an Evocron, which is another game out there that allows for Newtonian physics to be explored, if anyone's ever played it. So I hope that type of stuff exists in Star Citizen.
I'm pretty sure it will. Any other side interests, like, laser beams on, I don't know.
Well, the boarding action is something that's really interesting to me. I am a fan of first-person shooters, and so I hope that we'll have ample amount of opportunity to board other craft. And I know that we'll have EVA, or at least they mentioned that we should have extravehicular activity, so getting out of your ship and like floating around. So technically, you should be able to discard your current vessel to take over someone else's single piloted vessel if you can get them out of the cockpit. So that'd be another thing I'd like to see.
Just start beating on the glass. Get out, you son of a... I want your ship. Get off my ship. That'd be pretty interesting. This does, well, along with hopes come with possible concerns. Has there been anything that's been slightly worrying? Death of a spaceman and the concept of death seemed to worry people until Chris Roberts stepped in and explained it all. But has there been anything that set a hair on edge or grayed a hair or anything that might concern you about the game?
Something recently did actually bother me a little bit. There was the recent comlink about the model that they had in there doing all the motion capture, and there was one pose she was in during that scene or that skit or whatever, where she's holding this rifle, but she's all like contorted sideways, and have you ever heard of the term Escher girls? She's kind of like in that type of position where it's almost impossible to bend your torso in that way, just so you can try and stick your ass and boobs out as far as you can. And she's got this MP5 like stuck in her hip, and it's, from my perspective at least, the most impossibly uncomfortable position someone can hold themselves in. And I understand why they probably asked her to do that, but I'd hope that they don't have a pose like that as your basic idol pose for the females, because that's just going to kind of ruin it for a lot of women out there who don't necessarily want to be seen as a sexual object with a weapon in their hands all the time.
And plus, as somebody who served in the forces, holding a weapon like that is actually not the best anyway.
Not at all, yeah. And that's another thing that's, unfortunately, being in the military has ruined a lot of movies and video games for me, because I just see all the things that don't actually happen. And it destroys the fantasy a little bit.
Well, I'm pretty sure with the mocap, they're also trying to capture all possible angles, so until we have more, we'd probably have to wait and see. Is there anything else that you might bring cause for concern?
The first-person shooter aspect, or the boarding aspect, I know that they're using CryEngine 3, and so it should already have a lot of that built in, so I'm not too concerned about it. But depending on how they tweak it or how they design the system for how we're going to be boarding, it might be a little, I don't know, it might be a little too arcadey. It doesn't seem like that. It seems like Chris Roberts has a good grasp of what he wants, and from everything he's said, I see a vision of it as being pretty good, especially with the insta-death, or the headshot that destroys your character forever, and you have to give all your assets to your heir, or whatever you want to call it.
I do like the threat mechanic. Sorry about that.
I think that's a great idea. Oh, no problem.
No, and to extrapolate on that, having some threat to your character's life is a good idea. I don't know if you've ever played DayZ or any sort of permadeath style games.
I have.
But, Arma 2 is a great engine. As goofy as it is sometimes, but having some threat as opposed to Eve or other games I've played where you just, well, shit, I died, I'll just respawn in my clone, might keep people from actually participating in these, but at the same time, will be exhilarating for those that do want to take the risk of boarding. I guess my only concern is that they focus on keeping the space game a space game and not an FPS. But
Oh, I agree with that very much. But I think the entire building block of the game being that you're a person walking around and getting into vehicles doesn't necessarily equate to the game being simply a flight simulator. It's also got other aspects that I think Chris Roberts wants to explore, and that's why he built it that way, so that you're not just, starting the game inside the ship, flying around and then landing and having menus to go through like back in Wing Commander, but instead you get to explore everything as a first-person or third-person character, getting into vehicles, which are, of course, where everything turns into a flight simulator. So it's kind of a new genre altogether, really, if you want to think about it that way.
Yeah, like you said, maybe if we're even lucky, we'll be able to find Wingman's Hanger. They mentioned the possible Easter egg of it.
Oh, I think it's going to be in there for sure, without a doubt.
The lamp. We'll find all these just things sitting around, maybe a like floating raptor bobblehead. Oh, hey, there's Zane.
That'd be pretty funny.
So, you mentioned earlier that you did some creative work for the community as well, both story and art, and I've seen some of your work. I'm impressed. Why don't you extrapolate on this, and I'll probably have some of it displayed during this video, so you're at the mercy.
Well, they'll have to know that it's a lot of it's a little bit risque. It's not exactly not safe for work on the completely... Well, some of it is, but I don't think I've posted much of that on Chatroll. But basically, I enjoy sketching, and I hadn't drawn anything for quite some time when I started talking to the characters on Chatroll, to the members of the community on Chatroll. And I say characters because a lot of the people on Chatroll they're pretty much, they're role-playing different characters. Like Silfrena has 3 of them, I think. And then there's Alara and Mira and Zane and Black Dakota and all sorts of other people out there that all have their characters that they've created for the Star Citizen universe. So I started drawing them, mostly all the women, actually, just because I'm more comfortable with that. It's something I've drawn more than anything else. And then I started posting that in Chatroll, so that's kind of where that all came from.
So did you ever think of maybe start doing commissions? Because every time I'm on Chatroll, somebody will be like, "Hey, Exile, draw me." I'm not saying you should profit off us.
I would never charge for any of the art that I'm doing there. I don't believe myself to be... Like, there are far better artists actually in the community right now. Like Chloe is a very talented artist, and the BD is too, Black Dakota, and there's a couple others that draw better than I do, really, from my perspective. Of course, the artist is always its worst critic. Yeah. So I feel that my art is not cleaned up enough or professional enough for me to ever sell, and so I would never ask money for it, especially not since this is, I'm doing it as a gift to the community members that I've chosen to portray in art, just because of the fun of it, and to build camaraderie and to have a tighter community, which I think has definitely come to fruition. I think our group is really closely knit on the forums and in Chatroll, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to translate when the game comes out and everyone's actually in the Star Citizen universe.
Everyone's their own pirate or explorer. It'll be interesting to see if we maintain those ties, or I'm still a pirate, I'm still gonna shoot you, Hawk. Fuck. Damn it. Although, granted, I'd eventually like to do some sort of explorer covert ops. I thoroughly enjoyed Eve's covert ops system, even at times where I could just be 15 meters from a person, reappear and be like, "Hey, sup?" Hopefully you'll be able to do something similar, because my playstyle tends to be fuck everything that involves stealth and just tank. But if stealth is done right, I enjoy it thoroughly. But
well, I know that in the fiction, and Chris Roberts has mentioned this himself, and it's been in previous games, that they intend on having the ability to mask your signature with objects in space, either planets or asteroids and things like that. So you may not be able to get a couple meters away from someone, But when you can reach out and touch somebody a kilometer away with a weapon, you don't necessarily have to be a couple meters away from them.
I just sometimes troll people, just follow them, but that's sidetracking. You also mentioned fan fiction as well.
Yes, I have two fan fictions up on the forum. One's kind of on the back burner. The one I'm currently working on is the Scipio, which is basically I wanted to recreate life on a Bengal carrier. So I built an extensive list of crew members, including all of the bridge crew, and two fighter wings. Sorry, one fighter wing and one bomber wing. So that's two fighter squadrons, a security squadron of Hornets, all those, and a bomber wing of Gladiators. And then there is also four couriers, which are M50s, that basically either run messages if comms are damaged, or a slew of whatever the captain wants them to do. So all together, there's about let me see, there's a little over 100 different characters that I will eventually introduce in one way or another. And I've also been introducing a lot of the characters as members of the community that have either given me names to represent them in the storyline, or who've given me their own names, all like they're flat out their own call signs and their names. So some of them you'll recognize easily, and others you won't know, but they're actually represented by someone in the community.
Well, I'm looking forward to the eventual reveals. I'm still trying to catch up with all the awesome content that we have in the fan fiction area of the forums. In fact, I think it gets neglected sometimes because I notice a lot of people will be chatting in general about maybe more interesting things to them at the time. So anybody that's watching should definitely check out the fan fiction section of the forums. A lot of creativity there. So,
Definitely.
regarding the fan fiction, do you plan to continue through this past game release, or is this something pre-game release, or just sort of at this point don't really know?
Well, we have a couple of years until release, so I'm assuming the Scipio will either be completed or discarded by then. I have a terrible habit of starting things and then getting to, about 15,000 to 120,000 words, and then just kind of losing my vibe. And so if anyone goes to Protagonize, it's a writing website, you can see all the different work I'm actually in the progress of working. And I think I have, let me see, 7 different stories that are all within the between 20 and 75 pages of paperback worth. And so I keep jumping back and forth between all these different storylines and write on them depending on what my mood is. Like I have a Western, I have a fantasy that is Tolkien-esque, there's a romance in there, and a ton of sci-fi. So depending on what I feel like writing, I'll kind of drop one project and move back to an older one that I haven't written on in a long time. So hopefully the Scipio keeps my attention for quite some time, at least to flesh out the main ideas. And of course, the more people are reading and the more people are commenting, the more I'm willing to continue the story. So that's part of the reason why I introduced characters from Chatroll into the storyline, because I know that they're going to bug me to keep writing, and that's a good thing for me, because
I was just going to say, you'll have a dedicated fan base going, Exile, 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 and you'll be like, what, leave me alone. So this brings up another interesting topic, and I think final topic, but what is life in Chatroll like? We have a lot of subscribers and followers now for Star Citizen. I'm pretty confident, it's not going anywhere, and given the funding and that Chris has. But last I checked, we're in the hundreds of thousands of members, and even though us Chatroll might think we're the biggest thing sometimes, there's only really a dedicated few, like a handful in terms of the mass numbers we have that ever join. Do you want to help pitch why some people should come in and chat? Because, we have the potential dev talk sometimes, and Space Lube and Whales. People, I don't know, like pitch Chatroll for potential viewers.
Well, I think Chatroll is just the best way to really build the community spirit, the esprit de corps, if you want to call it that. There's something about chat roll and meeting all these people and talking about random crap, really, because that's what mostly happens in chat roll. But it just kind of brings everyone closer together, so that when the game actually does come out, you'll be able to recognize people. You'll be somewhere, flying around space and in orbit around Spider or something, and all of a sudden a bunch of NPC enemies will show up, and all of a sudden, hey, Eddie's there. Holy crap. And he helps you out. And then, oh, frick, next thing you know, you're being pirated by probably Aquila.
Alara.
And, someone else shows up to help you out that you recognize from chat roll. Or it's just, it builds this web of connectivity that'll transcend what happens in chat roll and move into this amazing game that we're about to experience, and it'll allow us to keep these relationships going. And like you mentioned earlier, it's going to be interesting when certain people run into each other. Like when we're pirates and we run into you, I'm still hoping that all that rum is still up for offer. Otherwise, you might have to lose your legs.
Yeah, well, we'll see at this point. I still haven't decided exactly what I'm doing in the universe yet. I still want to see what options I have to me. Given the fact that I'm an old Battletech player and that assault or get the fuck out, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of the first Lyrian Atlas Scout Lance.
Yes, yeah. Definitely. You go in, you tag, and you leave.
No, Atlas Scouts? I think you're missing the point.
Or maybe thinking about the wrong one.
I'm thinking of be heavy or else. That doesn't matter. So if I can't do my covert ops route in Star Citizen, it'll likely be try to find the biggest, baddest thing I can pilot single-handedly and see where I can go from there.
Probably, at the moment at least, that would probably be the constellation.
True, but I'm trying to think single-handedly that I don't have to even worry about NPCs because I still like that fighter pilot aspect.
Right. In that case, I suppose the Hornet's the biggest punch out there right now for single-handed.
At the moment, but I'm waiting to see if there's any other options. I have the 300i ready to go, but we'll see. But back on topic of chat roll, is there any final shoutouts you want to make here? Because I'm looking at the timer and we actually gone on for a bit.
Not necessarily. I mean, obviously Aquila and the 127th are my two main shoutouts, but I've mentioned them several times already. The artists out there that I've mentioned as well. Kasich, I missed Kasich. He's also a very talented artist, and he's actually had some of his stuff featured through Wingmans Hanger, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, basically, if you haven't been to chat roll, it's probably a good idea to stop by just to meet the people that have been, I think we have the best perspective on especially Wingman, and like Eric. He's been popping in there right and left and center. We get random developers come in to talk to us as well. But Eric is definitely the most amusing, and he'll throw up a live feed for us out of nowhere. Like people will be working, and he'll show up live feed with, some of the booze that other members have sent to them in the office, and he'll just talk to us randomly of anything that's going on. And so that's something that you don't experience anywhere else, and I've never experienced with any other developers.
Yeah, we're quite blessed with an awesome community, an awesome development team. But I'd like to actually close now. I'd like to actually thank you for taking your time to interview and talk to the Hawk, listen to my nonchalant, boring voice. So I'll let you sign off, and then we can say goodbye. And again, I'd just like to say thank you very much for taking the time to be interviewed.
No problem. It was my pleasure.
So everyone, this is Exile and Dr. Hawk. Wishing you safe flight. You all take care and fly safe.